Ladies and gentlemen, doing today.
Hi, how are you? I'm Hillary Beatrez.
Hillary?
Hillary, yes.
My brother. How you doing?
Wisdom.
I'm Tanis.
You're tenant?
Tanis.
Tanis?
Wisdom.
Wisdom. Nice to meet you.
Yes. Let me see if I can get one of my images here. Gallery. Screenshots. Let me see if I can find the image that we're here for. Maybe I downloaded it. Yes, ma'am. Miss Lowrie?
Yes.
Oh.
Nice to meet you.
Yes.
And you are?
Wisdom.
Wisdom? Nice to meet you. My name's Angie.
Yes, ma'am.
Good. How are you? So Kelly's going to come down and join us, and this is Hillary Beatrez, our CFO.
CFO.
And we thought we can sit down in one of our meeting rooms and chat.
Absolutely. That's
Go
yeah.
over
That's
questions
what
you
we're
have.
gonna do. Yes.
Okay. Great. You get her? Let
I'm
me-
good. I'm good. Go ahead.
We're going to be in the CCR.
I want to know.
Have you been to the Cleveland History Center before? I think we talked about that. You said you hadn't. Have
No,
you ever
ma'am.
been?
No, this is my first time ever visiting. It's very extravagant and beautiful.
Yeah. Well, while we wait for Kelly, give you a little overview. As I said, it was closely. I was hoping that we could have rescheduled. We could have given you a whole tour with everything up and running because we have things down and you know, like not all of our monitors and things are all turned off and things are set on timers.
Yes, ma'am.
But this is kind of an overview of some of the things that we offer here at the Cleveland History Center, and a map. So I'll give this to you. You can see kind of everything. We're comprised of almost 8 acres with
Yeah, I
two
noticed it was
mansions.
multiple departments and like, sections. Yeah, it's pretty
Yeah, so we
extensive.
have the Carousel in Crawford here, and it goes all the way down to the house that sits on the corner of Hazel and East Boulevard, which is a mansion that's original here. So this is East Boulevard. You go from corner to corner. This is Hazel.
Does any of it go underground or something like?
Well, the two houses. So this is one of two houses that are original to the property, and we moved here. We were part of. We were originally downtown. We started in 1867, and then we came down to the Cleveland to University Circle. This is Dennis Barry. He is our director of experience design.
Hard to see anybody.
I know that
Hi,
the
how are you?
sunlight. Dennis is part of our exhibit design and programming team. So
Exhibit design and programming team.
yeah, he has a fun title of director of experience design.
So you kind of like a visual visionary.
Sort of, yeah. Sometimes, some days.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm similar. Like me and Wiz, we're like YouTube artists as well. We create visual and audio media material. So we like specialize in almost the exact same thing. Similar. You know what I'm saying? We're like cousins. down the block.
In the arts.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
you're into the arts.
Yes. We love it.
Are you in the sun?
I can't see a thing.
I just
Yeah.
want to let the shine,
I was just
illumination.
well, I know it's nice to see the sunshine
nice to see
after
the
all
sun.
these
It's
days, right?
such an opportune day. It's
Yeah.
a wonderful day.
It is. So I was giving them an overview because neither have visited the Cleveland History Center before. So you were asking about things going underground, and I was mentioning that we have this house and the other house. We moved here in the mid-1930s and early 40s into the two houses, and then the wings. So each house has its own basement, but the wings that connect then don't. So there's no way to like travel underground, which would be really cool if it was.
Yeah, I imagine like
But,
such an extensive
yeah.
property. They most likely might have schematics, secret schematics you probably don't see on
Yeah.
there. You know what I'm saying? The map
Yeah.
they give you to the public.
No, this is the main gallery space. So this is our gallery guide for the public. So these are all the public accessible spaces, and that gives you an overview of
Free
what we
Wi-Fi?
offer here.
Am I on the free Wi-Fi? Let me get on this now. You notice that was the first bullet point.
What's that? Oh,
Free
the
Wi-Fi.
Wi-Fi.
Yeah, let me
there you go.
immediately take
Yeah.
full advantage.
It should connect for you.
WRHS. Absolutely.
I made the mistake of calling this area here the basement once, and I was corrected. It's the
Wow.
That's right. Yeah, we don't put collections in the
So
basement.
how extensive is the lower level? Is it only in
Oh,
this?
you can see. Would you see? It is, so this kind of section is 2 floors. It is known as the Crawford Auto Aviation Museum. And so the need for, yep. Yeah, so it's cars, airplanes, we have a book down here. I'll show you.
Oh wow.
So you can kind of see, we don't have lights on all the way around, but basically, this looks at cars all around. It is, all of these cars are from our collection. We have,
I'm so flabbergasted that an image of mine would be prestigious or riveting enough to be, you know, curated amongst these things.
Hello.
let me introduce you to Kelly FALCONE-HALL. She's
Wisdom.
our president and
Hi,
CEO.
Wisdom Kelly.
Tennis.
Hi, Tanis. Nice to meet you. Thanks for coming over. How you guys doing?
Good, how are
A little nervous.
Okay.
So I was
It's
just giving
just
them a
us.
little overview of the museums. This is their first time here. So.
Oh, good. Welcome.
Thank you.
We've only been around for 153 years.
Yes, this is our first. Wow, it's like
Yeah.
an introduction.
Yeah.
You know, it's beautiful.
Oh, good. Oh,
Yeah, I mean, I feel like coming from the economic background we have, we don't always have the freedom and privilege of really experiencing, you know, these recreational arts and things like that. It's, you know, things that are non-academic, things like that. You know, we're so confined to survival and oppression. We just live what becomes
Where do you guys
these
live?
things. Yeah.
Cleveland.
Are you around here though?
Yeah. I graduated from Shaker.
Okay.
He graduated from Shaker.
Okay.
Did you come to prom here?
No.
Shaker prom is here a
My
couple of
family
years.
was not privileged economically enough to purchase these things. Yeah, it was really disappointing. My brother went.
Yeah. Yeah, Shaker, my God, Shaker's been coming since like 69.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, a long time.
Wow.
Yeah,
Well,
they're-
welcome. You're
yeah.
here now.
Amen.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me.
We're happy to give you the grand tour or talk about whatever you guys want to talk about.
Absolutely. I'm just riveted and I'm just, you know, exhilarated. Like really. Because it's like, wow. I never imagined that me standing out there for Tamir Rice, that young boy who was shot to death, would lead to me being, you know, curated among such exquisite historical context, you know, and, you know, just it's beautiful. It's amazing, you know, because it's a tragedy. It was such a brutal tragedy that helped produce something so prestigious, you know. So that little boy, Tamir Rice, he didn't even have a real lethal firearm, but he was shot. That's the reason why we're here right now. Because if he wouldn't have been there and been murdered because of the profiling and this whole controversy of society, we wouldn't have been able to find my image to, you know, museum gallery, add it to the gallery.
And I'll tell you, our job, so I said we've been around 153 years, and we want to make sure everybody's story is told here. You know, and when we tell stories of recent history, which, you know, doesn't happen a lot in historical societies, a lot of times the people that we talk about and interpret, they're long since passed. So here we are now, trying to tell stories of
This itself, we might have to take
21st
images
century.
and create stone figures of this exact interaction now. This is a historical event right now.
So we say we make history every
Every
day.
day, yeah.
You just said it. That's what
did
we
you
say.
meet
No, we
team?
met. We
You
talked
did
already. I
already?
thought you were coming back up.
Oh, you want to?
What is the name again?
Dennis.
Dennis
Yes.
and
Hillary.
Hillary. Brother Tannis.
Do you guys want to come up or?
Sure, I was.
down?
Yeah, we were
What do you wanna
peeking at
do?
the
Oh,
cars.
this
He was
is-
asking what the
Then
downstairs.
this is just happening.
Yeah, oh,
This
wow.
is happening. We have basically the other half of the automotive collection is in sort of So we've got about 170 automobiles, 12 airplanes, motorcycles, bicycles, and that's just the Crawford collection.
It's I hate to say, but it's a little bit of a challenge for me to really bask in the expanse of this, you know, extracurricular institution of history to society when the actual people, the reason why I'm here is because of the atrocity of their actual experience. It's such a clash and a contrast of emotion because I want to be thankful and riveted. Like, wow, look how expansive their institution is. Look how great that is for those who care about history. But then I think about the reason I'm here. That little kid is dead. I saw his mother, looked her in the eye, like I'm looking at you now. That little boy, he's a little kid, he'll never be able to enjoy the expanses of your expansion. That's why I'm literally here today.
Well, why don't you come?
Come this way.
Well, look, we're gonna show you a few things, but I want to take you into the exhibits so that you
Certainly.
can see that in context how the stories being told. Just wanted to point out to you that in 2017, on the 50th anniversary of Carl Stokes being elected the first African American mayor of the city of Cleveland, we worked with Cuyahoga Community College and lots of partners, about 60 partners, they're all listed over there on the wall, to produce this permanent exhibit about Carl and Lou Stokes. And so this actually opened first, and then later that month, this was all for our 150th anniversary. Later that month, we opened Cleveland Starts Here, which is a permanent exhibit about Cleveland and Northeast Ohio, which is where the image of you during the protest is featured, or was featured. We did actually take it down.
Yeah,
And we worked with, Dennis is here because we worked with Dennis
it's
on all
very,
of these projects.
it's well colored, it's well arranged, it's very, informationally, stimulating. I like just the arrangement, what do you call it? The template is beautiful. The combination of colors, the arrangement, all of it is marvelous. It is. It's decorated marvelous, I have to say.
I think it's, but I think it's more than that. I think it's really dedicated to telling the stories of our community. And that's the most important thing to us. It's good that we can do it with, good design, all the things you're very aware of. But it's also that we tell the story and we make sure that people understand what went on.
Well, if I analyzed it on a more critically evaluative scale as a member of a society this is supposed to represent, or a demographic this is supposed to represent, I feel like it's still a disservice.
Still what?
A disservice. Yeah, I feel like it's very selectively, what's the word? I feel like it's kind of a selective account, and it kind of omits a critical element of the experience as well. It's, it's kind of like a filtered or a censored account based on a person's bias or their demographic, which makes them feel. Whoever designed it, I'm sure it compelled them. But to the community it's supposed to represent, I feel like it's a vast disconnection.
I guess I don't agree.
As a member of that society.
Well, I think the members of the community, and there have been a lot of members of the African American community, have been in here, have witnessed this. This is a very honest statement about Carl and Lou Stokes, and about how they grew up, the conflicts they face. They're self-made individuals, and how they issues with the riots in Cleveland that took place in the '60s, and how it affected Carl's tenure as mayor. I mean, all those things are dealt with in these exhibits. So we don't, what I'm saying is, we don't shy away from the issues at hand. We don't shy away from the way...
I feel like that's a relative definition, though. Your definition of that is relative to your
It's
bias.
not just my definition.
I don't know. Well, to whoever the critical committee or whoever's responsible is selectively biased to their perspective. And I can appreciate the aesthetic, and I appreciate the intention, but as a representative, a member of the community that's supposed to represent us, it's a vast disconnection. I'm just being honest. I have to be able to be sincere and ethical with it. I'm just telling you the ethical truth.
I'm not sure how you can know it's a vast disconnect if you don't read and involve yourself with the exhibition.
I read the small portion here. Yes.
So you read a portion.
Yes, I did.
You didn't read all of it. You didn't experience all of it. So I think it's very important
Come on
to think
over.
about it.
Bear and stand closer. Yeah. Can we watch the video? Just take a look, and then I do want to take you guys in. Hey, look! Hey, everyone's entitled to their own opinion. Honestly,
so.
And
How did two brothers born in poverty both achieve political power, prestige, and success, and leave an indelible mark on the history of the city and the nation? Louis Stokes, Roberta Stokes, had the distinction of being African African American first. See how it's sarcastic, scholastic, journalistic? It's kind of sensationalized, as if it's like unfathomable. It almost insults our potential of our capability as people, as if, oh my, they became politically assimilated to America. That's how brand. Look at the type of language you use. You know, this very lofty kind of, scholastically, like just, exaggerative language, sensationalized language. It almost it implies an inferiority. As if, wow, look, unbelievable. These people were the first to ever assimilate. As if that's such an accomplishment. If America is responsible for slavery, I want to visit an accomplishment for the people who were enslaved to assimilate to the people in slavery. To me, it's heartbreaking. As extravagant and eloquent as you put it, it's heart-wrenching to me as a member of this society. You know, these brown people, I am a brown person, I hope I am, if I'm not deluded right now. This is heart-wrenching. Let's continue.
Watch the video. Let's see what's going on. Okay.
Is it not an American law?
It is sarcastic, though. It was hilarious.
Civil rights movement brought change to the nation. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and Malcolm X both visited Cleveland in 1964, pushing for social reform and equality for African Americans and urging them to take their rightful place in the halls of government. One man who already achieved that distinction was Carl Stokes, who in 1962 became the first African American Democrat to serve in Ohio state legislature. Like many cities in the Great Lakes region, Cleveland was in a state of decay, plagued by industrial decline, substandard housing, and unemployment. In 1965, hoping to improve the city, Stokes set his sights on the mayor's office, running as an independent against incumbent Ralph Loper. Loper's administration was seen as ineffective, marked by growing racial tension, and unable to steer Cleveland toward prosperity.
I wish you would pay attention.
The race was close,
I apologize.
with
I
Loper
just wanted
edging
to
out
word
Stokes
and come
by
with the
less than
definition.
2,500 votes. But the following year, the long, simmering tension exploded into 5 days of violence in the African American neighborhood of Hull.
All of the discrimination at every level you can think of, education, jobs, economics, transportation, all of that frustration sort of came together in that terrible, terrible uprising. People began to get a feeling that the only way they could really change things is if they elected an African American.
In 1967, Stokes ran for mayor again, this time going head-to-head against Ralph Loper in the Democratic primary. Stokes had the political experience, he had the charisma, but could he win the votes in a racially divided city?
At that time, Cleveland had a river. On the east side, black people, and the west side, white people, but they had to get those votes.
Blacks and whites came together to form a coalition to get Stokes elected.
Are the people of Cleveland willing to vote for a candidate for mayor who has the best qualifications, who has the best program, who has the philosophy of government and its relationship with people, but whose skin does happen to be black?
With 96% of the black vote and 52% citywide, Stokes clinched the primary. Now he had to win the general election against a more formidable opponent, Seth Taft, who inherited a political legacy from his father, Charlie Taft, mayor of Cincinnati, his uncle, U.S. Senator Robert Taft, and his grandfather, President William Howard Taft.
He said, I have a record of service in the Negro community unmatched by anyone. Seth Taft isn't even represented
with a list of what precincts had not reported. As soon as we saw that, it was all over. Because the precincts that hadn't been reported at that moment were precincts in the black community.
Carl Stokes had won, becoming the first African-American mayor of a major American city.
Is it James Brown in the background?
The thing about it,
I think so.
it wasn't
Yeah, that was nice.
like victory. It was a victory for the entire city of Cleveland. Everybody voted.
So Carl Stokes became that kind of emblem. He became that kind of symbol that said, we can do it.
His first test came only months later.
In April of 1968, when he'd just been in office a few months, Martin Luther King was assassinated. There were spontaneous eruptions throughout the country. Cities burned. I think more than 40 cities had rioting in protest to his death. In Cleveland, Carl, who had his fingers on the community, really enlisted all of the organizations out there that were considered black militant. He asked them to keep the peace. He even walked the streets with them. Cleveland must have been the only really major tinderbox city in the country that did not explode that night. And because there was peace and quiet in Cleveland, the next day, everyone embraced Carl.
During his 2 terms in office, Stokes worked to improve Cleveland with initiatives for housing and urban renewal, employment, health and welfare, youth resources, and the environment. As a prominent figure on the national stage, Carl Stokes inspired the election of black mayors across the country, an increase in African-American participation in politics,
Sammy Davis Jr.
and advancements
Remember that guy?
in the civil rights movement, leaving a legacy of hope and achievement for the black community, the city of Cleveland, and the nation.
Well.
So one of the reasons that Dr. Johnson over at Tri-C, he called us up a few years ago and said, we want to do this exhibit and we want it to be permanent and we want it to be at the Cleveland History Center. And one of the reasons why it's here is because we have the African American Archives, which is a collection that we've had since 1970. And it's so primary source materials like photographs or newspapers or people's journals or letters that school kids would have written to Carl when he was mayor. A lot of documents like that. There's about 250 different manuscript collections in the African American Archives, dozens of photo collections. It's a massive and important collection, not only in the city, but nationally. And library's not open today, or we'd take you in, because I would like you to come back and show you some of these materials. But we've got Carl Stokes' papers, we've got Lou's paper. I say Lou, he was on our board. Lou, we have Congressman Louis Stokes' papers. They're actually in the process of being processed currently. And so these collections that we keep safe here in our library. Again, the library's been around, that was how we were founded, was as a library. And so people in the community know that we have this collection, and they look to us to not only keep it safe, but to share it. And so we do that through exhibits, through programs. We have a lot of school kids that come through, not today, but most days, when we're open. So anyway, I just wanted to share that with you as well, because I think that's something else that you might be interested in taking a look at. I mean, it is
the African American Archives.
African American Archives. It is a vast, important, growing every day, and well-regarded collection of the city and the country. There's nothing else like it. Just last year, I don't know if you're familiar with George Forbes. He was the past president of Cleveland City Council. Very important, seminal figure in the African American community. Still with us. He has not passed. He's still around. But we got his papers last year. George Forbes. He's an icon. And very important guy. And he only lives here part of the time. He's in the University Circle, but we got his papers. And so it's always growing. The collection is always growing. That's just one example. But we use it in this way. We use it for programs. I'd like to show you.
Celebrate those who give black.
Celebrate those who give black. We just We have an exhibit right now that celebrates.
I feel like even the terminology of calling people whose pigmentation reflects, like, I use this example. Children in school, when we're teaching them the vast array of colors and the spectrum of color that God made, or if you're an atheist, I don't know what you, but we teach them white and brown and green and purple. And then when we say to a brown person, my child, I tell them that's a black person. And my child can easily differentiate between the color of brown and the color of black. But we classify people as black, and I feel like even that's derogatory in itself. Nobody is actually black unless they've been maybe burned or some type of mutation to their body. So why do we classify brown people as black? Why do we classify the peach sort of a pigmentation of people as white? I don't teach my child to call black people black people. They're clearly not black according to the spectrum of colors, unless we're not even using color as a determination for people. Maybe they're using another terminology that's not even relating to color when you call someone black or white, because they're clearly not the color black. So how is it a compliment to call someone such a thing? And and Martin Luther King, ironically, he was in the exhibit. He's the one who in his speech said that we looked up the definition and the origin of the word black, and a lot of the synonyms were evil and death and cursing, and things that were relating to morbid and you know what I'm saying? What's the word I'm looking for? Just morbid things, darkness, curses, evil. The synonyms for the word. You know what I'm saying? And all of the synonyms for the word white were purity and clean and just innocence and righteousness. Martin Luther King himself said that. And the irony, we call people black with the same exhibits of the man who exposed it's derogatory to call them black. You don't see any contradiction at all.
Historically, there were other days for people of color. And
according to what history?
But black was a big movement, social movement among African Americans to have the word black rather than Negro. And this is absolutely true. Negro was a term before black.
I feel like all of it is American history centralized, and it's all derogatory, and I'm a brown person. I classify myself, they say black is not even a race.
So now the term is African American. Are you African American?
No, I can't confirm that I'm from Africa. I might have been an Israelite. I might have been from Egypt or India, or I could have derived from any different part of that continent.
TANIS, we appreciate your perspective, and we welcome your feedback.
I hope so. I don't feel that way right now. I feel a tension.
Hopefully.
And kind of an indifference. You know how defensive you sound when I'm just making my minimal.
You sound very, can I just say, as a person who's worked in this field all my life, and how I know it's a sensitive issue, but to disregard the attempts of this organization and other organizations to deal honestly with these issues, I think is a little insensitive on your part.
Well, I feel like if my honesty is insensitive, imagine what shooting someone's son is. If you feel like my words and my exhibits is insensitive, imagine your child's son shot to death, and that same guy got hired again. He's working still. Imagine that. So what would you call that if you call my disagreement with the exhibit and the narrative insensitive? What would you call the death of a 12-year-old boy?
That's not insensitive. I'm not going to get into an argument over human rights. If you want your
I don't want to get into an argument.
about how things are being presented.
All right. Okay, come on in.
Excuse me. If my opinion is
myself.
offensive, I apologize. You don't have to excuse yourself. I welcome you. I would like to share dialogue and diversity of dialogue. I welcome you. I implore you. Stay among us. Let's really engage.
All right, so when we talk about Cleveland starts here, so there's a lot more.
Yeah, this place is humongous.
So it's about 7.5 acres of museum buildings and collections. It's a massive place. And not everything that we have is here. We can't have everything out. We have over 1 million items in the collection. And when you think about it, there's over 120 different groups in Cleveland So, you know, we have the privilege of trying to tell everybody's story.
Yes.
And you know what? Every single day this is what we do.
I understand.
My colleagues know this is our goal. This is what we try to do. And we know that we're not going to get it right, and we're not going to do disservice to everybody every single day, but we try it. So I think we should start down there. But this is our permanent exhibit. So permanent, it's not going away.
Can we kind of walk through? Can we
Absolutely. This is
where it goes down?
Well,
No, that's a separate film.
your
And
image
that's
was
film.
not in here, but I do want you to watch it.
Which you should see.
It's called Cleveland Starts Here.
The irony, one of the most historically racially offensive symbols in America, Mr. Chief Walker. It's no coincidence.
Well, he's been in this museum since 1993.
Yeah, I'm not a Native American, but it literally shatters my emotional status. Like, it descends it to such a deep place of depression.
Imagine, for 153 years that we've been a museum, so we were founded 2 years after the Civil War ended. Imagine the things that this organization has collected. So all of us here, our staff, our board, we've inherited these collections. And, you know, he is a disgraceful,
it's harsh.
you know.
It's harshly, nearly unbearable to witness. And it's larger than I've ever seen, but it embodies the morale and the ideology well.
This was the sign that was on the stadium that got demolished and then got replaced with the first set of the Brown Stadium. Tanis, this is this is where your image was. So this exhibit, we try to tell, you know, over 200 years. Abington Foundation is a local charitable foundation that supports programs. But in this space, we tried to introduce people to about 230 or so years of Cleveland history. And as you go through the space, we were very intentional about wanting to make sure that we brought it up to the present. So we opened the exhibit in 2017, and as much as possible, things were kind of as of November 2017. So it hasn't been updated over the last couple of years. We can try to add to the exhibit and bring it up to date, but this is where your image was, because we were very committed to and were very intentional about making sure that all the stories are being told. That the story that we tell about Cleveland, as Dennis mentioned earlier, isn't just a celebration, that it's about truth. And again, like I said, we have a lot of stories to tell, and we try very hard to make sure that everybody's stories are represented. And that's why it is important that we hear from our public. And we do appreciate your perspective. But this is where you were. You were part of
I feel
here.
like I would also be classified as a contributor too if my image was in it. I wouldn't be just your public, I would be one of your contributors because my image was there. And if it was there for an entire, when was it first installed?
We opened the exhibit in November of 2017.
So it's been up for potentially 2 years.
It was up for 2 years.
Amen.
Yes, it was.
So I'm a 2-year-long contributor based on my potentially risking my life that night for the death of a 12-year-old boy. Tamir Rice made me a 2-year contributor to the Western Reserve Historical Society. I'm honored right now. I'm sorry, I'm overwhelmed with emotion. 2 years. Let me write this. National Senior Guy. What was the small description that was given with the image that was up of mine? Was there any? What was the words?
I'd have to go back and look at it.
Yeah, I want to see the you know, what small information, you know.
I'm pretty sure it's the same description.
Okay.
It really focused on the killing of Tamir Rice and the protest.
Right. So you got? Is there anything replacing the Tamir Rice event now?
Right here. We're coming up. We just saw it. Just saw it. Hold on a minute. You'll see it.
Yeah, because even if you take my image down, don't take down the event, you know, and the response of the community to the death of Tamir Rice. Let's not forget him. I feel like his image should be bigger than Carl Stokes. He really died for the city. I feel like he's a greater contributor than Carl Stokes to the city, because he shed his blood as an innocent child to help us address this societal contradiction and this societal disparity.
I think everybody thinks that was a very important moment, and yes.
Yes, please, if my public and 2-year contribution means anything, get Tamir Rice's image bigger than Carl Stokes, please. Make a whole extensive exhibit for him and his mother. Where is Tamir Rice's mother? Have you had anything for her?
We don't know her.
We don't know.
She is accessible though. Look, you even found me, and I was in this thing. If you can find me, and I'm not even related to the child who was shot, I know you can find the mother of the young man who was shot to death by the Cleveland police. Okay. Once a critical transportation route, the Ohio and Erie Canal towpath has become a recreational destination. All that rust.
Here we are.
Okay. The tragic shooting of young Tamir Rice by a Cleveland police officer in 2014 gained international attention for discussions. Police discussions.
And again, that was as of 2017.
It's a very bold image.
And actually, it's
also on the one. It's around that.
Yes.
We also
I think that
the image.
Killed.
And again, I mean, what we're trying to do in a limited space is basically give you like 17 years of history.
So you have a larger than my body size replica of one of the most racially offensive symbols in history in a very compact area for national tragedy, though. Do you see the obvious disparity in size and what it can imply from an intellectual perspective? From a critical thinking view, you have a humongous, towering Chief Wahoo and a very compact national tragedy area where Tamir Rice, a young 12-year-old boy, his story is, representative or entry, you know what I'm saying? But I don't know, I feel like from a critical thinking perspective, that could be a little disheartening. As a member of the society, you know what I'm saying? My friend calling out another impoverished minority calling me. Yes, there's literally I should answer the phone for him just so you can hear his condition. This is another member of your public, who probably would feel like, man, that's a little disheartening. His name is Rose.
Again, I just think you should judge things in the whole context of the place. You should also look at the other film, which deals again with the poverty and racism of people.
May I, before we continue, this is extremely disheartening. And it's overwhelming to me. As a person my friend was shot in the stomach about 2 weeks ago. He just got out of the hospital. Yeah, we were there, yeah. And he's a volunteer for a nonprofit organization we're formulating about lead poisoning awareness. Because we found out that the statistics in Cleveland are higher than even Flint, Michigan, where there was a national crisis. So every day now I have to live through the lens of knowing that potentially 90% of the people I know are critically neurologically affected by a toxin that diminishes their brain. You know what I'm saying? Every day.
How's he doing?
He just got out. Just got out of hospital.
Oh, good.
I'm glad he's out.
This is a video. But
I'm glad he's all right.
yeah, and the reason he was shot, look, is because of this small, compact area of national tragedy. You know what I'm saying? It's such a glaring reminder and reinforcement of oppression and reminders of us our secondary subordination and second-class citizenship in this country. It's just like every direction in America, it's a reminder, a reinforcement of oppression, psychologically, economically, sociologically, socially. It's like a hostility and a disdain for just pleading for humanity. So it's like, it's disheartening. It's disheartening. I just need a moment, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's hard to bear. I care about Native Americans. I did a lot of research about the Pontiacs Rebellion. Anybody familiar with?
I'm very familiar with
Pontiacs Rebellion and the fact they used smallpox blankets. The British, Jeffrey Amherst, wrote letters talking about inoculating this execrable race with smallpox and diseases to exterminate and murder them, and he built stadiums over their graves. And it's a little disheartening sometimes. It's disheartening to imagine that I'm walking on the graves of natives who died from biological warfare in Cleveland. every day, and I got to go talk to his mother. I had to stand near Tamir Rice's mother. Can you imagine that? While you're standing on the graves of Native Americans and there's actually documented, irrefutable proof of it. It's hard to bear. This is disheartening. I'm overwhelmed with grief. I am. I'm sad. It just breaks my heart to watch. And you brought my image here. This was a divine orchestration. This was destiny. This is history. Right now. As conflicting as this may seem, this is a vital moment in history. Why is it such a compact representation of the tragedies of kids getting murdered, but it's a humongous, glaring, historical representation of racism? Why is it not a display for little Tamir Rice as big as it was for a political, assimilating person to the government? Don't you see how obviously propagandized this feels? How much of an agenda this seems to promote of a glorification of the government and the minimizing of those who suffer on account of the government? A child. Maybe you don't agree with me, but do you agree that a kid should have been murdered? No. Come on, man. Come on. Now, you may not be able to synchronize with my political outlook and my sociological view, but that was a little kid murdered. Look at this. Look at this atrocity that we try to civilize, that you call civilized. It's barbarity. On an intellectual, scholastic level, it's atrocious. I'm glad that my image was used for 2 years so we can have this discussion. 2 years of my image used to endorse a bias, to a propagandized bias against my people, and I'm out there risking my life in order to endorse your bias. I almost went to jail for that. You thought you wouldn't hear my voice? Yes. Hold on, I'm gonna summarize. Man, I almost went to jail for that. I'll calm down. I almost went to jail. And now it's a historical museum prop. As a little boy is dead, and you have a tiny little compact section for him, and a humongous glaring cheap wahoo, and I'm not supposed to be disheartened at all. I'm supposed to be proud. Come on, let's continue. I'm good. Now I feel like I got it. I see I feel like I have a better bracing point for what to expect next. You know what I'm saying? It's like you hit me in the chin. Oh, bias. Bigotry.
Let's go watch the film. What do you think?
Oh God.
I haven't heard from you.
I want to wait until like the tour to give my full.
Well, I want you guys to come down.
Okay.
You know what? Truly, I've been here for 25 years, and we like to watch your stuff. We like to hear from people, and we need to hear from people. And all we're trying to do is tell a story. We don't have a bias. We don't have an agenda. We're a historical society. We're the good guys. Okay. We're the good guys. So we don't mind hearing it. We want to hear it.
Oh God. Yes, yes, please.
Give me a minute.
Dennis, right? My brother.
By the way, I'm getting
Me too. I endorse the suffering of anyone doing the noble thing.
So we'll watch this from the beginning. But again, I would hope that everybody would look at this as a way of trying to tell the story honestly from that the city's been all about. And a good part of it is veneration.
It is. And it's an uncomfortable topic, but it must be if we seek to evolve as people.
I don't disagree.
Yes, and I'm thankful you didn't leave.
That's why this isn't just a promotional film. So watch. Let's watch it.
How long is it, sir?
5 or 10 minutes.
About 10 minutes.
To know us is to explore our neighborhoods, consider our heritage, hear our voices.
I've been here for 40 years.
So how do you make sense of our city's history?
Lakelanders are tough, they're gritty people. Over the years, we've been made fun of. Burning of the river, all of that. We know how to deal with adversity very well.
The fundamental today on the threshold of history. But to make sense of Cleveland's rejuvenation, we must consider our extraordinary past. It's a lengthy journey with some bumps along the way.
This is considered the hub area right here. That's the first place I landed. This is part of the history. The Huff riots, that was back in the 60s. Jobs left, steel mills closed, things like that. Started deteriorating. Things that really impacted the city that caused businesses to move out of the inner city.
People were continuing to seek the American dream in the suburbs. The people who didn't have the means to follow them were left behind here.
They're not cold, I'm sorry. That starts with the
Thank you. I'm okay.
Dennis, you want water?
I'm fine, thank you.
I'll sit them in the room.
This was not the city it had once been. When Cleveland was one of the nation's centers of industry and manufacturing.
Thank you.
In the beginning, Cleveland was all industry. The whole river was factory shipping. There were just houses on top of houses, all up and down the river, factories and smokestacks everywhere.
In the early 20th century, immigrants came here from southern and eastern Europe and found plenty of work.
Wow.
Entrepreneurs and innovators accelerated our rise into an economic and cultural powerhouse. We were creating more patents here than any other city in the country. Political, corporate, and philanthropic leaders invested back into our city, into our very future, by creating many of Cleveland's pillar institutions. The 1920s saw immigrants continue to pour into the city.
This really was my playground as a kid. My grandmother was from Russia. Little child, we would get up really early and I would sleep underneath the counters.
Slovenians, Croatians, Germans, Italians, Greek. Everybody had their own neighborhood around here in Cleveland.
Overseas immigration and migration from the South continued through the Great Depression and World War II.
Right into the Civil War. There were factors that were going on in Puerto Rico that made my father come here. Moraine, Ohio, was seeking young guys to go work in the blast furnace, the hottest part of the steel industry.
My grandfather played for the Negro Leagues here. That's how my family actually got here. He came up here and played for the Cleveland Buckeyes. And they were able to, at that time, be fortunate enough to move into Glenville.
Where they play at?
No, he farmed.
In the middle of the 20th century, Cleveland was one of America's 10 largest cities. But by then, many were more focused on living and building in the suburbs. Industry jobs also began going away, and our city's core began to deteriorate.
Cleveland used to be really separate neighborhoods. So when I was growing up, I couldn't walk up Murray Hill.
Kind of like a ghost town in a sense.
Amidst social upheaval, Clevelanders made history electing Carl Stokes as America's first African-American big city mayor. Surrounded by high culture, wealthy suburbs, and the pillar institutions that had sustained the city, many Clevelanders were growing up amidst some of the highest poverty rates in the nation.
It was tough times. The river catches on fire. The mayor's hair catches on fire. What are the chances of that? Both of those things happening.
I grew up in the Glenville area, and I grew up in an era where many of us who were in armed forces, or we call it major work, had to ride yellow buses to the other side of town.
For many in Cleveland, the 1970s represented a low point. But the decades that followed saw reinvestment in the key areas of the city, like the lakefront and Playhouse Square.
Suddenly things started picking up again. I mean, almost like spiritually, you know, it wasn't actual economically, but the economics followed the spiritual rebirth.
the city's shift to a new post-industrial economy was underway, with growth in higher education, research, and medicine. Our city today is a magnet for people around the world.
We're from St. Antonio, Texas.
From Paris. Back from Sydney, Australia.
While we were in town, we got to see the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
It's really cool. It's probably my favorite place in Ohio at the moment.
We're a rock and roll town in our DNA. The blue collar ethos is burned into our soul.
Since the beginning, Cleveland's people and its pillar institutions have distinguished the city with achievement.
I came here because of medicine and because of how outstanding the Cleveland Clinic is. I call Cleveland the medical city.
With its world-class institutions, our city remains a place of confounding contrasts, of distinct realities, of a rebirth now in progress. That future is rooted in Cleveland's connection to the global economy and how our neighborhoods and schools prepare the next generation.
There are many today that call education the civil rights issue of our time.
Today, we make history as we pass it on to our students.
All of this history, all of this knowledge is showing off the page. And that's one of the huge takeaways that I want for our students is possibilities are endless. You just have to want it, dream it, do it.
Community development is not just bricks and mortar.
The legacy of our dynamic past, our desire to propel us forward, will reshape the future.
It's this weird combination of extreme cynicism and undying eternal hope.
I love LeBron a lot because he did say he would bring a ring here. It wasn't the last time we had one of those. I waited 50 years for a winner. I might have Cleveland before it was cool.
Driven to overcome, we know that the full story of Cleveland continues to unfold, to be discovered, to be imagined. With every era, we build upon what has been created by previous generations. For this is where our future begins.
For history, for good food.
I see people from all over the world working here. You feel an immense pride. You feel, how am I going to contribute to it and challenge?
We don't give up.
Free parking is demanded by all true Clevelanders.
It always starts off with the individuals.
Cleveland starts here.
Cleveland is my home.
Well,
Well, I thought it had some positive elements, but once again, it felt like it was coming from a biased narrative. But I appreciate the aesthetic. It was very well organized. The template, the transitions, you know, the imagery. It's all very beautiful. The language was very eloquent and dazzling. But it was once again from a biased narrative, in my opinion. You know, it wasn't from the opinion of those. It wasn't a diverse narrative. It was a very one-sided narrative, in my opinion. But it was politically correct. It was politically safe. It was educational. It was the aesthetic was pleasing, beautiful, colorful imagery. But yeah, I feel like
Tanis, can I ask you a question? You
Sure.
said that it's bias, and a couple things here are bias, and I'm just curious
The narrative.
of what, if you could be more specific about that.
Okay, let me try to dissect or
Sure.
extensify. Basically, I think it really embodies the opinion of a demographic of those who like would endear the government. It comes from a white, almost like a white supremacist perspective of bias. You know, those who benefited, those who lived in a. It's more of a privileged perspective. It doesn't embody the perspective of those who were experiencing these things, the griefs and gripes, and the current condition of those who were oppressed. It sounds like the oppressor's narrative.
I think what he's trying to say is he would feel more
I think he would have like appreciated it more if you had more of like the urban community have an outlook of what was happening. I think that's what he was saying.
So your perception
That's a
is
simple-
that we
he
have not
simplified it.
included the perspective of the urban community.
And not in a
This isn't your
adequate
Cleveland.
manner.
Huh?
This isn't your Cleveland.
No.
Yeah.
No.
I get it.
Because basically their definition of the rebirth of Cleveland was embodied in these certain institutions, these corporate institutions profiting and benefiting, like the sports teams and the refurbishing of downtown, which are things that don't really benefit the society of those who are affected. Like we know about the lead poisoning statistics. Kids are still poisoned here worse than Flint, Michigan. So how much of a transformation of a society is that when kids are still getting brain damage every day? In fact, Cleveland has higher statistics than Flint, Michigan currently right now. So how much of a real authentic embodiment of the rebirth of Cleveland, or whose definition of a rebirth is this? When our kids are getting damaged, all our people are getting shot up, Cleveland is the first state a private prison was ever introduced. Why was that omitted? We found out that the private prison industrial complex is a serious, oppressive, modern issue, current, still affecting our society right now. And the lady who wrote the book, The New Jim Crow, because that's how she coined it, is actually an Ohio State professor. The irony that was omitted. And she comes from an intellectual demographic. She doesn't even represent just the urban community. But they even omitted that. See how harsh of a bias that is. To intellectually omit the oppression of these people still existing. It is unfathomable, unconscionable. Unconscionable. It's such harsh bigotry, you might as well just put KKK on it and let them endorse it and say, this was our opinion.
Well,
It would have been less
I
disheartening.
gotta tell you, I reject that. We
I
are not
accept
white
that.
supremacists, and this
I
is not.
I embrace everyone's
what we're
diversity,
trying to do.
but I have to be honest.
TANIS.
And I'm here because my image was taken for 2 years. Where was your image used? No, mine was. So that's why we're even here. My image was without consent exhibited in this museum. That's the only reason we're even here.
Well, it wasn't done intentionally.
Well, trust me, I
we
wouldn't
got
have been
it from
intentional.
the
As long as
AP.
I've lived in Cleveland for a decade, I've never stepped foot in here. You guys would have maybe never seen me or my family in all of our life on earth.
Will you come back?
My question is this. Do you feel it's justified to exploit my image for 2 years and just have me come back?
TANIS, it was totally unintentional.
So who do I speak to? Who's the superior that I can discuss the legitimacy of this with?
You've talked to me.
Who is your superior?
We have a board chair.
Yeah, where's the board? Where are they at?
You know what?
I don't feel this is justified. Taking me through this.
I'm the president and CEO of the organization.
Taking me through this process only disheartened me more and was a reinforcement of the injustice I felt I was experiencing by my image being taken without consent.
TANIS, I'm more than happy to talk to you again about it. I am in charge. I'm the president and CEO of the institution.
Can you sympathize with me any, or are you just going to remain in your formality? Because it's like you're seeking to defend your professional standpoint and your professional ethic, but you're neglecting to sympathize with the fact that I'm an oppressed person who was exploited once again in this way by your institution. Are you sympathizing with me? Or do we have to have 1,000 people from different communities, suburban communities, come down here? Then will it be justified? Then will it be able to more relatable? Will you be able to acquiesce or vicariously sympathize?
What is it that you would like from me?
Ma'am, sympathy, compassion, humanity, consideration. Just those things. Please, I'm pleading to you in a professional environment for sympathy, compassion, consideration, humanity. My image was used. Look at how disheartening, as a person who's a representative of the community, you're supposed to be fairly and ethically endorsing through these exhibits. I'm devastated. Sympathize with me. That's all I ask. My friend is recovering from being shot in the stomach while we come in here to go through this professional procedural process. I'm going through this procedure with you while my friend is suffering, recovering from a stomach wound to the gut that damaged his intestines and his rectum and his bladder.
I'm sorry about that.
So while you guys endorse our suffering and in such an unbiased account of history, my friend is literally suffering because of what you omitted from it. So it's hard not to be offended when the exact reason for my friend's suffering, I'm looking him in the eyes while he's got wires and medical bags hooked into his stomach. And now I have to consider it justified for you to create a biased account and use my image to omit and reinforce a biased account in a professional, prestigious manner. Don't you see the contrast? Can you sympathize at all? Or is it just isolated to me? You know what I'm saying? I'm just very disheartened. I'm wrecked. I'm wrenched inside. My friend is recovering from a stomach wound. And another friend of mine was shot and killed 2 days after my birthday last year, May the 7th.
Sorry about that.
We're very sorry for your loss.
Basically, why do I refer to these things? Because first of all, I'm in an emotional place because of the oppression of the matters that were omitted from these professional exhibits of an unbiased account of the history of Cleveland. The things that were omitted are a direct result or a direct contribution to why I'm emotional now. One friend shot to death. This is just last year. That year of me protesting, I lost like 4 friends. That year, from the image that you have for 2 years in this exhibit, 4 of my friends that were all like under the age of 30 were murdered by gun violence due to systemic oppression, which was carefully omitted from the
TANIS,
exhibit.
would you, for this institution, for the Historical Society, a place where we're trying to tell a story, would it be your wish for us to tell more of what you're describing, make it a bigger story, make it a larger, give it more visibility here? Because, and I ask, and I mean it genuinely, I ask because if we don't continue to hear from you, then this is why we need to hear these perspectives. But we're doing the best we can too. So hearing from you is important to us. And so what I'm saying is, that's why I'm asking, what is it that you would like from us or from me? You have my card. You are both welcome back here anytime as our guest. No admission.
You're asking me to sympathize with your professional plight.
I'm not asking you to do anything.
Yeah,
I'm asking you what is it that you would want from the Historical Society?
I don't know I need some details of what your capabilities are. I know that you're capable of putting on eloquent aesthetic exhibits that are very riveting and very aesthetically pleasing. But what are you willing to do? My people are dying. You know what I'm saying? It's just like,
what can a Historical Society do?
Well, maybe we should detail that. Maybe we should negotiate and discuss that. But I feel like this is a rigidly biased account of history, and for my image to be used to help reinforce this biased account of history is just completely unjustified. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like it's kind of, I don't even know. I feel like it's an exploitative reinforcement of the same injustice that you're seeking to try to promote a fairness about. You're actually reinforcing the same oppression that you're seeking to expose through history. You're actually reinforcing it by extorting my image in order to detail your account and exhibit. And I feel like that was a harsh injustice for me to endure. And in the small, compact area where, the humanitarian injustice is kept in the large, humongous, towering Chief Wahoo, the biased, political endorsement of political candidates instead of the death of a child. It's all harsh. What can you do? I feel like you guys are so limited by the bias that permeates this entire institution. Anything I ask you to do is going to be compressed by that bias that permeates this entire institution of your certain narrative. Your narrative is extremely biased. What can I actually genuinely expect out of this. Look at how defensive and how, procedural this entire process has been. It's tense. It's like you know what I'm saying? I
Just
don't
trying
know.
to be professional.
I
Not
understand,
trying to
but
be-
the standard of professional in America has always been racist. That's the only problem. The definition of professional in America has always been historically racist. That's the only problem. Whites only, blacks only, go to the back door. And it's the same permeation today. But just like Michelle Alexander, the author of The New Jim Crow, said, these caste systems have not been alleviated, but just modernized, mechanized, systemic forms of oppression. Now more black people are incarcerated than there were slaves in 1850. And Ohio had the instrumental role of being the first state to ever implement a privatized institution for imprisoning and incarcerating people. That's a preliminary event in history. That's like a historical, transformative breakthrough in history. The first privatized prison. Look how much of a contributive role that's played in a country with the largest prison population in the world. How instrumental is that? You were the first institution to privatize it. That's preliminary. That's why wouldn't we include that? Why is it omitted? Exactly. So I'm just like, I don't understand what I could get out of the bias. I feel very harshly opposed, and the disdain is very strongly felt. Thank you.
We don't feel that way.
We don't.
You may not, but this man clearly
I don't
does.
disdain you, but I don't agree with all of your arguments. But that's it. I don't agree. You don't agree.
But
And you
your
can
temperament,
agree
your
to
body
disagree.
language is very.
Look at your body language.
I'm here. I'm willing to hug you. Come on, man. You're not my enemy. My enemy is oppression.
Well,
My enemy is oppression.
And the Historical Society didn't create that. We're the good guys. We want to talk to you. We're trying to tell stories. We're trying to get everybody's history represented and everybody's today represented, which is what we're trying to do in the exhibit.
And there are a lot of stories to tell. So
If I can come up with one idea, can we have like
Wiz, do me a favor. It wasn't your image, bro.
I'm just
Do me that favor. Do me that favor. Don't do that. His opinion is not vital here. It was my image used. This is my brother. This is my media representative. Chill, Wiz. Just trust me on this one. At the end of the day, my image was used wrongfully, unprofessionally, and it's ironic that you guys want to affirm and really emphasize professionalism now. Where was the professionalism when my image was used without consent? That's all.
We didn't know it was you.
And I feel for that injustice, something is due. 2 years of my image being used to help reinforce this biased account of history.
She just politely asked you what you want.
I think we need to negotiate further what
TANIS.
your capabilities are. I don't know what your capabilities. I'm not going to just throw something out there when I don't know your professional capabilities.
Are you talking about financial?
I don't know what I'm talking. I'm talking whatever your capabilities are. I need them extensively detailed in writing so that we can evaluate from an educated, knowledgeable place. And you're not going to take my limited knowledge of your professional capability and try to use that as a dartboard.
if I can just interrupt for a moment, we've heard you consistently that we had the image up. Immediately when you called, we put into process to have that image removed.
I feel like that was that was a disservice in itself. That was almost criminal. Oh, we've made a mistake. Here, let's immediately act like it doesn't exist.
No,
Clean it up.
no, it
To me,
wasn't
that's how
to
I
take it
interpret
away.
it. That's how I
You said
interpret it. That was criminal,
Well, I
in my
interpreted
opinion.
that you were not pleased that we had
And
the image in place and
I
without
have
your
a vast,
permission. The
I have a
minute you
vast
identified
network of
yourself-
association with activists. If we must, we'll give you another historical event to detail in another department. We'll come down here and give you another historical event to detail. I'll help you right now. You guys need another exhibit? I'm going to give it to you if I don't feel justice is served over this criminal disservice of what happened to me.
It's not
I will make sure
criminal.
you get another historical department. That's my consent from my heart. Right now, you are getting it thoroughly. I'm telling you, it's going to be another historical exhibit in here for Cleveland.
You can go anywhere with it.
No, all I
think you
said,
can go
look, you working against me, I love you. I love you, sir. But at the end of the day, I said I need in detail, what are your professional capabilities? That's all I asked.
Why don't you
Why don't you articulate?
Why don't you do me a favor? Send me an email. You've got my stuff now.
Let's do it now, ma'am, because the delay, my people are getting murdered like literally every day, so the time constraint is a little bit.
Why don't you send me an email? Because I have a boss too. And just send me an email and...
Ma'am, I need you to send me an email.
Then give me your contact information.
Okay, where's your phone, ma'am?
Oh,
I'll give it to you right now.
Actually,
Angie,
I'll
write it.
we
I'll
use
write
the
it down.
Undivided Cleveland email address? I can share it with Kelly because
yes, ma'am. Angie's been messaging me repeatedly.
So why don't I'll be your contact, okay? You and me, and just give me. You process what we talked about.
Can you sympathize with me even in the most micro level?
Of course I do.
I hope so. I feel. Look at this. You know what I'm saying? I come here to try to mediate and come to a place of reasoning together, and I'm confronted with disdain, professional disdain. I'm thinking that this was not the purpose of why I was coming here.
We would like to understand what you're looking for.
I don't want to be dismissed. I don't want to be closed up and buried in history like my ancestors were. I don't want to be cleaned up and just dusted under the rug. See, we did it. How insulting to my intelligence is that? Here, what's her email? Go ahead, put it in.
No, she's...
Compose an email right there. Look.
Well, I'm going to think about it. TANIS, I'm the president of the institution, and so what I'm asking for is a little bit of time so that I can process and talk to my boss and get back to you.
Absolutely, ma'am. I hope I'm living and the oppression of what was omitted from these exhibits today doesn't prevent me from hearing
It'll be this week.
I hope. I really put it down.
Get my word.
Forgive me for my strong
my word.
opinion, but I'm just coming from a place of emotional distress because of oppression. That's all. And I apologize to you, sir. I did not mean to offend you or insult you, sir. I was just trying to be sincere. Likewise. God bless you. Kelly. Yes. Dennis. Kelly. Great to meet you. God bless you. I apologize again. Thank you.
So nice to meet you. I'd be interested in your thoughts and had suggestions, and I'll welcome them. So here's my card if you'd like to see it. So I guess you'll be following up with Kelly and sending her a note.
I guess so.
I'll share your email.
God willing. God bless you.
Thank you, babe.
Thank you.
See you.
Thank you, Liz, for trusting me. They was gonna try to look. They was gonna try to use your lack of knowledge to try to come up with some bullshit. So basically, that's why I said I need y'all capabilities. Yeah, boy, God is good, bro. We uploading all that shit, cuz. Hey, stop that shit, bro.